Right now, on to the point.
High-speed buses could be coming to California. Here are the potential plans and how lawmakers on both sides of the aisle are responding.
Governor Newsom's office telling drivers to avoid Chevron over prices. Tonight, Chevron's response.
People are concerned, and they should be.
The major new directive from the Trump administration that could impact hundreds of thousands of green card holders, and the national redistricting battle, where the fight now stands heading into the midterms. High-speed buses are now being discussed in California as the state's high-speed rail project continues to face delays and rising costs. Good evening. As always, thank you so much for joining us. I'm Alex Bell. Even though this is only in discussions right now, state lawmakers, they already have some pretty strong opinions. ABC 10's Jeannie Nguyen explains what's being proposed.
High-speed buses are not a bad idea. They're a good idea, certainly an option to rail.
Democratic Senator Dave Cortese is referring to this concept of a high-speed bus system that was discussed by Caltrans earlier this week. The speed would range between 80 to 120 miles per hour, connecting California cities, including a route from Los Angeles to San Francisco.
If we could average 80 miles per hour, 4 hours and 47 minutes, at 100 miles per hour, 3 hours and 50 minutes, or at 120, 3 hours and 12 minutes.
For years, the state's high-speed rail project has been underway to connect Northern and Southern California. But after multiple delays and funding issues, the project is over budget and nowhere near being completed as construction continues on only the Merced to Bakersfield corridor. Cortese, who's also the chair of the Senate Transportation Committee, says the idea of a high-speed bus system would not replace rail, but provide another option for commuters.
It's hard to make a mistake with modern transportation investment. You could choose buses or high-speed rail, and you're still helping people. You're still creating good transportation infrastructure in the state.
Caltrans officials do not have a cost estimate to build the infrastructure or a cost for passengers just yet. But Republican Senator Tony Strickland and Vice Chair of the Senate Transportation Committee is skeptical.
Historically, buses haven't exactly been doing that great in terms of revenue and people using it. And so my first initial reaction is I think it would be a waste of money.
A spokesperson for Caltrans says this concept remains exploratory, adding that they're evaluating whether or not future testing or implementation of high-speed buses is appropriate.
I think the voters should be skeptical because, again, the high-speed fail was proposed as a $33 billion project to go from San Francisco to Los Angeles by 2020.
Caltrans says this early assessment phase will see how fast a bus can safely travel on the state's freeways and how to make it work when it comes to design and freeway modifications. In Sacramento, Jeannie Nguyen, ABC 10.
Senator Cortese says discussions will eventually make their way to the Senate Transportation Committee. Caltrans officials discussed potentially adding bicycle lanes and parks to the designated high-speed bus lanes. All right, tonight a war of words is on between Governor Newsom and Chevron. Yesterday, the governor's office posted on social media that drivers should avoid Chevron this holiday weekend, and it comes at gas stations in Sacramento saying that Sacramento policies did this. Now you pay more. The governor's office posted that big oil is already making billions off Trump's Iran war. Don't let Chevron rip you off even more by overpaying for the brand name. ABC 10's Jenny Huff spoke with Chevron today.
Every gas station in the state has higher prices than anywhere else in the country, and that starts with state fees and state regulatory programs.
What would you say to drivers who sometimes feel like Chevron is overpriced?
People are concerned, and they should be. If you choose Chevron, you're choosing a reliable fuel that is going to be good for your vehicle.
The governor's office argues unbranded gas comes from the same infrastructure and meets the same state standards, even if it doesn't have a fancy name. The California Energy Commission supports that, but a petroleum expert we spoke with today says that just because it's branded better, it may help you reduce the engine wear. And here's a look at where gas prices in California stand right now. According to AAA, the statewide average for a regular gallon of gas is $6.13 a gallon. Diesel sitting at $7.41 a gallon. And it, of course, is a big weekend for travel. If you are flying out of Sacramento International Airport, Staff says that they are telling people to get there extra early. Give yourself some time because SMF is expecting more than 100,000 flyers this weekend. They say ongoing construction may slow things down, and some parking lots, they fill up fast in the mornings, we all know, and they suggest checking parking availability before you leave and use economy parking rather than the daily lot. Now, nationwide, Atlanta, Chicago, Dallas, and Denver are expected to be the busiest airports this weekend, with more than 53,000 flights scheduled just today. This Memorial weekend, more than 39 million Americans will drive to their destinations, even as we continue to see those gas prices climb.
While we expect broadly less demand, less travel over the course of the summer, it's still going to be a very busy Memorial Day.
For the holiday since the summer of 2022. Coming up on To The Point, another lawsuit just filed against the Trump administration's new anti-weaponization fund, and who is already asking for cash. Plus, the future of applying for green cards. The new directive lawyers are trying to figure out now.
And we have got absolutely perfect weather on the way for the long holiday weekend. Low to mid 80s each day and a nice Delta breeze. I've got a full look at the forecast after the break.
But first, another headlines tonight. A man accused of killing his ex-girlfriend and escaping to Mexico with their 2 young kids appeared in court today. Cameras were not allowed inside when charges including murder were read to 40-year-old Cameron Lee. He did not enter a plea and will be back in court in July. Tulsi Gabbard, President Trump's director of national intelligence, is resigning at the end of next month. She says that she's stepping down to spend more time with her husband, who is fighting a rare form of bone cancer. The deputy director of national intelligence will move up in an acting capacity. And the racing world remains in shock after the sudden death of 2-time NASCAR Cup Series champion Kyle Busch. He was scheduled to race in North Carolina this weekend. While his cause of death is still unknown, Busch asked for medical help in the middle of a race earlier this month. Elk Grove NASCAR driver Kyle Larson posted this photo on X, saying he's heartbroken and that it's hard to put into words what Busch meant to him in his career. All right, let's get a check of our weather for the weekend. Brendan, I have to say, it looks like we're going to have pretty perfect weather for the holiday weekend.
It really could not be any better. Not going to be hot, not going to be cold. I mean, just absolutely perfect. We're talking about temperatures in the 80s. In fact, today we hit 89 in Sacramento, 92 Stockton, 93 in Modesto. I don't expect us to be anywhere near these numbers as we go through the weekend. Certainly not for Sunday and Monday. We'll see a bit of cooling each day. 86 Jackson, 84 in Auburn this afternoon, 70 in Truckee, 68 in Tahoe. That 89 degrees, while it's not in the 90s like what we've seen recently, it still does go up on the board as one of the warmer days that we have had so far this year. 83 in Sacramento right now, 88 in Stockton, 90 in Modesto, 77 in Placerville, 76 in Nevada City, 70 in Truckee, and 65 in Tahoe. We've got a nice Delta breeze going right now. Winds 15 to almost 25 miles per hour coming out of the Delta with some gusts about 20 to 30 miles per hour. So that's really helping to cool us off, especially compared to where we were at this time yesterday. 24 hours ago, we were 9 degrees warmer. It's 83 degrees right now. Sunny skies, absolutely perfect with that Delta breeze. Clear skies for the rest of the evening. Maybe a few clouds moving through during the overnight, but overall a cool morning, a quiet morning. 52 in Sacramento, 52 Stockton, 58 in Modesto, 51 in Vacaville, 55 in Auburn, 37 in Truckee, and 38 in Tahoe. Saturday afternoon, starting that long weekend, and temperatures are cooling down. 84 Sacramento, 87 in Stockton, 88 Manteca, 90 in Modesto, 75 in Fairfield, 77 in Vacaville. Some low 70s in the high country. And like I said a minute ago, some cooling each day. A bit cooler on Sunday, right near 80 degrees on Monday. That's 3 degrees cooler than normal. We'll stay in those upper 70s and low 80s on Tuesday because of this system dropping in. Now, initially, it's going to bring us cooler temperatures and a stronger onshore wind, but as that system exits through the middle part of the week, it could also bring us some stronger north winds and elevated fire danger. So that's something that we'll be watching for. Again, that'll be after the long weekend, somewhere around Wednesday or Thursday. But over the next 3-4 days, just absolutely perfect weather in the low to middle 80s with nice Delta breezes. I mean, you couldn't plan it any better. Alex.
Wonderful, Brennan. Thank you so much. Coming up right after the break, the national redistricting battle, where the fight now stands heading into the midterms. And then, of course, we're hitting the back roads of Mr. John Bartel. He's taking us to a spot where a legendary racehorse inspired a Hollywood movie. We continue to follow breaking news tonight in Orange County. This is a look in Garden Grove where tens of thousands of homes are now evacuated due to a chemical leak at an aerospace facility. Officials say a valve overheated on a massive tank that's holding a liquid that's used to make acrylic plastics. They say the tank could either fail or explode. We are tracking this breaking news throughout the evening. Make sure you stay with us for updates. Tonight, we are learning about the first requests and more backlash around the Trump administration's new anti-weaponization fund. The $1.8 billion taxpayer-funded program is part of a settlement between the Trump administration and Trump personally. People who have allegedly been targeted by any government administration could be given money with the Justice Department's approval. Tonight, we are learning former Trump advisor Michael Caputo is one of the first to ask for funds. He's requesting $2.7 million, saying that he was targeted by the FBI's investigation into Russian interference in the 2016 election. Groups including a former federal prosecutor and a government watchdog are asking a judge to block payments, calling them unconstitutional. Earlier this week, officers who defended the Capitol during the January 6th attack also sued, saying this could be used to pay rioters and finance paramilitary organizations. Lawmakers on Capitol Hill are also speaking out about this. Following questions of the acting attorney general on Capitol Hill yesterday, Senator Mitch McConnell said, quote, "So the nation's top law enforcement official is asking for a slush fund to pay people who assault cops. Utterly stupid, morally wrong. Take your pick." Tonight, immigration lawyers say they are now trying to figure out how to move forward with green card applications following a new directive out of Washington. The Trump administration says most temporary visa holders and humanitarian parolees living in the U.S. must now return to their home countries to apply for and complete their green card applications. Hundreds of thousands of people with temporary work visas looking for permanent residency could be impacted by this. Lawyers say many of those impacted now have nowhere safe to return to. In Your Voice, Your Vote, as California gets ready to vote in the June primary, redistricting will be a major factor in U.S. House races this year in California and across the country, for that fact. This is the latest map from the Associated Press showing where the redistricting battle now stands. The states that you see in dark blue and dark red have adopted new maps. At least 7 other states are considering new maps. But as courts weigh in, the future of the redistricting battle nationally remains unknown. ABC 10 Becca's Habegger explains.
In the redistricting race to secure control of the House of Representatives after the November midterms, one thing is clear, says Rick Hassan.
Redistricting in the United States right now is a mess.
He's a professor of law at UCLA School of Law, where he directs the Safeguarding Democracy Project and is a national expert on redistricting.
There's been just kind of skirmishes in various states as they've considered whether and how they might redraw their lines in the middle of the decade, which is not something we usually see.
He says there have been 2 recent significant legal developments in this race among the states.
First, Virginia passed a law, much like California's, through the voters that would have gerrymandered that state's seats to favor Democrats, maybe gaining 4 votes. But the state Supreme Court said that the Democrats who put on the ballot didn't follow the technical rules, and so that's now off.
The other more significant development is the U.S. Supreme Court's decision last month in a case called Louisiana versus Calais.
That case changed the standards under the Voting Rights Act for when states have to draw districts to give minority voters a chance to elect their candidates of choice. This has set off a new scramble, including in places like Louisiana, which had already started early voting and then canceled their election. They're going to redo it just as to House races.
I asked which states are in flux as of mid-May.
We just saw Tennessee change its lines. Louisiana changed its lines. Both of those have been subject to lawsuits. Florida changed its lines. There's a lawsuit there under state law because there's a state constitutional amendment that says the state has to draw fair districts.
Different states have different processes for redistricting. Is that complicating this nationally?
When it comes to congressional elections, Congress has the power to override states. So if Congress said you've got to draw fair districts under criteria, you've got to use commissions, then states would have to go along with that. Congress hasn't done that.
California Representative Independent Kevin Kiley has proposed a bill that would ban mid-decade redistricting.
Representative Kiley's bill is just kind of putting a Band-Aid on until 2030, when then there would be no holds barred, just kind of rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic.
He says gerrymandering isn't ultimately good for democracy.
The losers are going to be whoever's in the minority party in any state, whether that's Republicans in California or Democrats in Texas. But we shouldn't lose sight of the loss of representation. And so I think we really need to ask whether the American democratic system is really facing a lot of stress, not just in terms of the balance of power between the parties, but what it means to have fair elections and fair representation.
Becca Habiger, ABC 10.
For more on Congress, redistricting, and our local House races, make sure you check out our election special this Saturday at 10 p.m. Or if you want to watch it now, it's streaming on our ABC 10 app. We're back after this. Well, you never know what you'll see on the back roads. Tonight, John Bartel is taking us out to Mendocino County.
The 2003 Academy Award-winning movie Seabiscuit told the real-life underdog story of an overlooked racehorse that became a symbol of hope during the Great Depression. But long before the Hollywood film, Seabiscuit's real home was tucked away in the rolling green hills just outside of Willits, California.
My name is Jacqueline Cooper. I'm the Vice President of Seabiscuit Heritage Foundation. Welcome to Ridgewood Ranch, the home of Seabiscuit here in Mendocino County.
Right off Highway 101, at the center of Ridgewood Ranch, stands a bronze memorial statue honoring a horse that once captured America's heart.
Was any of the movie shot here at all?
Well, Universal Studios didn't actually film here, but they sent a film crew and they wanted to get a lay of the land of Seabiscuit's home.
Visitors can tour Seabiscuit's historic barn, see the stalls where he lived after retiring from racing in 1940, and learn how the unlikely underdog became a legend.
Here we are at Seabiscuit Drive. We're having a look at Seabiscuit's stud barn. It was added to the National Register of Historic Places in 2014.
The black and white photos lining the barn walls tells a story of a horse that many people once dismissed.
People looked at him and thought, oh, that poor lame horse.
Seabiscuit had a deformity in his leg that gave him an unusual gait, but that flaw may have actually made him faster around turns.
Actually, the limb deformity would work to his advantage. Laura Hillenbrand in her book put it like he would come around a turn on a track and he could bank like an airplane.
One man who believed in Seabiscuit was Charles Howard, a wealthy Buick dealership owner in San Francisco who became one of the richest men in America.
Charles Howard was noted as saying there would never be another Seabiscuit.
Howard assembled a team around the horse, including jockey Red Pollard, another underdog battling injuries of his own.
Here on the property, along with this jockey Red Pollard, who had also suffered a bone-shattering riding accident, and both of them would be seen here walking these trails, limping in unison. Red Pollard would say they had 4 good legs between them.
The bond between the horse and jockey helped inspire a nation struggling through the Great Depression.
People had lost their jobs and experiencing hardships. Here comes this little known horse from the West Coast, and he was able to win.
Seabiscuit and Pollard overcame injuries and setbacks, eventually defeating the mighty Triple Crown winner War Admiral in one of racing's most famous match races.
Seabiscuit was able to beat War Admiral, the Triple Crown winner in 1938 in a match race, and he was able to defeat him by 4 lengths, which was an incredible feat.
Today, the Ridgewood Ranch is managed by the Golden Rule Association, an agriculture nonprofit focused on stewardship of the land and service to others. It's here that Seabiscuit's bloodline is still bred today, and his unlikely story continues to inspire future generations.
From the Seabiscuit Heritage Foundation in Willits, California, I'm John Bartel. Hope to see you on the back roads.
As always, thank you so much for watching, for always inviting us into your house. And don't forget, you can always download our free ABC 10 app wherever you stream. I'll see you right back here on Monday. Have a beautiful and safe weekend.